this Stryfe is now finished, and I've just done a few things externally. That's the Blaster Smiths UK large battery tray extender. I'm not sending this to the customer, they have to get their own one, so I didn't anticipate them necessarily wanting one this shape, but they will need one this size, because there you go, you can see it enables the bigger 1000 mAh3Ss to fit in that way up. You can cut this out, but when you see internally you'll see what I've done, and I tend to keep that area free because I have other things that I put in there. And then I also shaved down this very ugly cover, because none of the other ones I had would fit the hole that was there. So I just shaved a bit off the bottom, shaved about 3mm off the bottom, and just tidied the joint up and glued it in with proper DevCon. It's not a flawless joint because of the way the shape of this was fitting, but it's nice and strong now and it's not going to fall off. So that's that. I'm going to go and put it over the chrono. Before we do that, I'll just give you a quick look at the internal. Now we're going to look at the internals, and you can see that I've done one or two bits and pieces here. I've got proper 16 AWG motor wiring, just to give us a little bit more slack on the current, and I always like to aim for a 20% margin of error with all that kind of stuff. And then you can see here I've got my usual Dean's motor block connector, so that the customer can just open it up, pull the plug out, take it out. You can put them in here, and if you're going to cut the top of the battery tray out, that's about the only place to put it, up in this corner. But I don't like that, I don't think it looks as neat. I like to have it hidden inside the shell. So it's just personal preference. And then over here is where I sight the MOSFET. You can see the two larger negative wires going into that MOSFET, and there's the control wire. And if you want to see how to wire those, there's a video of mine on MOSFETs and Nerf, and that just pops in there like that. It's well clear of the trigger mechanism, and it's in a bit of free air just in case it gets warm. MOSFETs don't get hot, you don't need a heat sink on there. If you've got a correctly spec FET and you're keeping it within limits, it won't get hot enough to melt anything. It may get a little warm to the touch, but that should be your limit. Now, I had to leave this ugly switch in here simply because it was too much work to correct it. And what I've done is I've added a little piece of plastic here to retain this rev trigger to stop it from moving out of alignment while it activates the switch. If you want to see how to do that rev trigger without making it look like someone's been sick all over a large piece of plastic, then go and have a look at the linked video in the description box, and that also shows you how to retrain the trigger lock, which is useful because it will stop you short stroking. A little bit of, that's the other problem with having too much lube, stuff sticks to it. And you can see that I've, come here. Otherwise, I've left it pretty much internally the same, and I've just left the original wire. I had to lengthen this one with a spare piece, that I cut off here. I just lengthened it so it would reach up comfortably to the MOSFET, and then I haven't been able to do anything about this lack of insulation over these contacts because it's all embedded in hot glue. Frankly, I couldn't be bothered. But that is now only carrying signal current, so it's not carrying the full surge currents from the motors. And then in the motor block, that's got original fangs, and it's also got a pair of Bulldog flywheel, Mark 1 Bulldog flywheels. It's an early set that I got sent by UK Nerf War, and if you want those, he's got some new ones back in stock on the UK Nerf War on the UK. And if you want some of those, he's got some more in stock on the UK Nerf War shop, and he also now has the latest out of darts motors from the States. Those have arrived as well. So that's the overview of the internals. We're going to go and shoot it over the chrono. I'm just going to do a quick test with that, and then you can see whether my mod did or didn't do any better than otherwise. So that's that. That's how you tidy up a Stryfe. Right, we're going to put this Stryfe over the chrono quickly just to see what kind of numbers we get, and this is really for the owner's satisfaction because I didn't take any readings of it beforehand because frankly I didn't want to kill a set of IMRs putting them in here and having them sucked dry by the cheap 180s that were in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire 30 on 3S and 30 on 2S, and then we can get through the test data. Right, here are the chrono results for the Stryfe that I did, and that's running Fang motors and Bulldog wheels 2S. So you've got a high 124 feet per second, low of 112, average of 118, the extreme spread of 12, standard deviation of 3. Okay, so this is the figures for the Stryfe on fangs and bulldog wheels, and that is on 3S. High of 128, low of 112, average of 120, and extreme spread of 16, standard deviation of 3.